Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have some presentations. I just want to make notice the school boards were supposed to be here and publicly go over the board goals and ethics, but apparently she was outside with you guys and we were long into executive session, so she left and we'll schedule that for another board meeting. I'd like to recognize our student person on the board, Edward Movahill.
Ed, come on up.
You guys hear my big mouth without the microphone? Yeah. Okay. So first off, this was Eddie is such a great kid. If you don't know him, he was poised, he is intelligent, he is driven. Eddie is going places in life, is so ridiculously scheduled extracurricularly. We are very proud of him. He is everything about what Township is all about. So we wish you the best of luck. Thank you for hanging out with us. You're awesome. So we're going to keep your name tag, and then here is a plaque that represents you and your hard work from September through June. Thank you. That's good. Let's grab a picture. You got it, Kev? Okay, awesome. All right, here we go.
Oh, okay, Mom. Thank you.
Great job. Thanks, Ed. Good job. Big hand. Also want to take a second, and I want to recognize Callisto Taraborelli. Stand up. She's our new student rep. Why don't you go around and just shake hands and just say hi.
Hello.
I see a proud mommy out there.
Come on up.
Junior or senior? Sophomore.
All right. So you are going to join us in the upcoming months. I know that Mr. Anderson and I have met with you. So many proud things coming and happening at the high school. So round of applause. Thank you. Good job.
That was a test.
You're all
You
back
passed.
to that.
Ralph, if I could just real quickly, I just want to acknowledge, Eddie, you were such an amazing asset on the board. You were a tireless advocate for your student body, so thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing all the wonderful things you're going to do at college. Your dorm room's exceptional. I saw it. So good job, Mom. But sincerely, congratulations and good luck. And Callisto, really looking forward to working with you. Congratulations.
Okay, presentation, our health benefits. Janine?
Come on up, guys. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Jack McDermott. I'm a Senior Vice President with Brown & Brown. We are the insurance broker for the health benefits for Washington Township Board of Education. With me today I have Brooke Frockwell and Ellen Heck, who are on my team, who have assisted your members through the transition. We prepared a presentation. I was told I have 15 minutes. I could probably beat that because you were a little bit late in executive, and I'm sure everybody's happy about that. But if you look at the first section, it's just about Brown & Brown. There's some new board members on. I wanted to give you a little bit of history on Brown & Brown. We've been your broker on and off for more than 15 years. This is about us, #1 broker in the state for public sector schools. The second section is the team that assists the members of Washington Township Board of Education. The third is really why we're here. We're here because we moved from Amerihoff, New Jersey, which is a fully insured product, to something called the SHIP, or School Health Insurance Fund. That health insurance fund uses AmeriHealth Administrators, which is a self-insured platform for its vendors. That transition did not go as smoothly as we had hoped. There were some issues. If you turn to this third section, the recap, you can see the timeline that we created for everybody. April 30th was when the board decided to go with the SHIP. Census was given back and forth. July 1, the transition went live. There were members that were put in a wrong bucket within AmeriHealth. That was corrected very quickly. The main issue that we had was the vision benefit was built incorrectly. It was built on a reimbursement schedule versus a point-of-sale schedule. The difference between those two, reimbursement schedule, you go to the doctor, you pay the bill, you then get reimbursed by the insurance company. Point-of-sale schedule is you go and you pay your co-pays and you walk out the door. The one thing I want to stress is everybody had health benefits. Everybody had this vision benefit. It was just how you were going to go about getting those benefits. There were some card issues. AmeriHealth was trying so hard to get these cards out that they inadvertently sent some wrong cards out. It doesn't matter the card. I don't even have mine myself. It's the member number, the ID number. So whatever card your members have, that's the number that matters. We then have gotten almost everything done. The last piece, and I'm going to turn it over to AmeriHealth who I brought. The last piece was the deductible carryover credit and out-of-pocket maximum credit. Everything else is fine. Everything else has been completed. Every member has been reimbursed what they need to or is getting reimbursed what they need to. The last piece is the deductible carryover credit. That usually takes 45 to 60 days. We're right within that time frame. And I'm going to turn it over to Mike Munoz, who is the president of AmeriHealth. Does the board have any questions for me? I kept it under my 15 minutes.
Excuse me, I don't have a question.
Yes.
I just want to make a statement, and I appreciate you being here and providing this, because we've had several employees come up and discuss their challenges. So I just want to make one quick comment. You said everyone had benefits, and they had them. It was just the way they were being delivered. But I just want to couch and say, not everyone has the money to go to the eye doctor and put out that amount of money and then wait to get reimbursed, especially in the summer as a teacher. So I just feel compelled to say that because I think it's an accurate statement. You're right, everyone had benefits. I'm a product of a teacher's kid, and in the summer, you didn't ask really for much. So I just want to make the statement to say, I think that should be acknowledged, that it was obviously a miss, and not everyone has those funds in the summer to do that.
You're 100% correct with that. Yeah, and we can actually go through, and I can tell you how many, we had 27 people that had issues with benefits. Yeah, I agree with you.
Well, good evening. I'm Mike Munoz. I'm the president of AmeriHealth New Jersey. I'm here because you've been such a long-standing customer with us for over 15 years at this point. You better take one or two moves. And I wanted obviously to come out today and reinforce the relationship that we have with both Brown & Brown as your broker and with you as a school district for us. Obviously, anytime you make a change, you hope for everything to go correctly. In spite of it being AmeriHealth to AmeriHealth, it is two different platforms that they're on. And that's the reason that everything has to be retransitioned over to the new platform. So I'm here to say, I'm sorry. I'm here to say that we did resolve most of those issues as timely and as quickly as we could. And we value the relationship, and we are here to make sure that the board is satisfied with the work that we've done, along with your broker, who we've been working with for a good number of years, to make sure that everything's resolved to your satisfaction at this point. If not, to do whatever we need to do on our end to make sure that we make that promise to both your school board teachers and employees, and also to the board itself. So that's why I'm here tonight. So we wanted to reinforce the relationship and make sure that you guys know we're committed to making this work and whatever we possibly need to do. And I think we've done that on behalf of the board, and we've done that on behalf of all the members that participate in the health insurance. So with that, I'm more than glad to take any questions.
so thank you so much. Nice to meet you. It was a rough transition, so we want to acknowledge that piece because there's really no getting around that. I think, Carol, you did that very well. Obviously, we don't want to foresee a transition in the future. Obviously, we want those types of things not just to happen. I am under the impression, and I'm being told, that everything is underway for reimbursing anyone that's outstanding. And I'm also being told that there's some form of a incentive that is going to
There's an additional incentive that's being provided to all the employees of the district.
that we're on for July 1. So there's some form of a small gift card,
Yes.
you know.
We're providing a gift card to each of the,
Okay.
to each of the employees, not only the employees that were the 27 that called about division or had issues in your total population, but everybody that's an employee of the district.
Perfect. And I'm also told that gift card was more than their contribution, which, so nothing will make up for pain of
No.
suffering or appointments that were lost on that end.
As I
So,
said, you've been a long-standing customer for on and off for 15 years. We value the relationship and we want to do whatever we need to do on our side to make things right. And obviously, we value the relationship that we have with Brown & Brown. We don't want to make them look bad either. They've been your advocate for a number of years, and they've been able to help
Absolutely.
you navigate. And
Yeah.
as we try to help you navigate through the challenges of the expense of healthcare costs in the state, which is not easy.
no. And Sean, I want to publicly thank you and your office and Dawn, who really has taken the lead on all of these to assist all of our employees. So Dawn is a wonderful human being. If you only speak to Dawn through an email, next time you're here, please say hello. She is just a tremendous person and lost a lot of time and sleep in helping us through this. So.
Just real quick, you had mentioned there's 27 employees that were affected, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I may not have heard it accurately. You said that most of those claims have been reimbursed. Would you mind at the next meeting, or even through Janine, giving us an update as to when those claims are completely reimbursed so we know as a board?
100%.
That would be great.
Yeah, and I was actually hoping to have that today. But
Awesome.
We're still in the process of completing those claims, so I don't want to give you half information, but yes. And we'll have everything compiled for you on a spreadsheet, on a Excel
Perfect.
spreadsheet.
That's great.
So you can actually see date that it came in and date that it was completed.
Perfect. That would be wonderful. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll have that within a week, 2 weeks.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment, Ralph?
Yeah, sure.
I just want to comment, I want to thank you as well to, owning up to this unfortunate situation and trying to help our teachers. But I want to make this point this out as well. I know that as a teacher, teachers historically during the summer try to do a lot of their doctor's appointments during the summer so that they don't have to use their sick time, they don't have to use their personal time. And some of the feedback that I got that people were trying to get appointments, then they were told they didn't have insurance, they couldn't have the appointment. So I just want to bring up the fact that this is going to have an effect on us this school year in terms of people having to take off to go to their doctor's appointments that they weren't able to do. I just want to make that point out. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
The transition did not go as smoothly as we'd hoped, but it will be taken care of 100%. You'll have that report. I'll
Awesome.
provide that to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to give you the resolution to read for the second. I'm just making sure
For what, for now?
to go back in. But I just have to, so we have to talk about 1, 2, and
Okay, we're going to just finish the,
you can use this.
a discussion item that I want to do, and then unfortunately, or fortunately for us, we have to go back into executive session. and hopefully we won't be there that long, but I want to go discussion items on concept of charging for athletic events. You going to do that, or Mr. Murphy?
Yeah, so Kev, why don't you come on up to the microphone? For those who don't know, Mr. Murphy, he is our incredible athletic director and assistant principal at the high school. So one of the conversations that the board engaged in at the business committee was the concept of whether or not we wanted to entertain charging for games. So would it be okay if I just paint the picture of what those notes were so that everyone's on the same page? Or is that not necessary for the board?
No, go ahead, do it, you have to.
Do it? Okay. All right, so Murph, if I drive left or right, just cut me off and drive me straight, all right? So after about 1920, we did not charge for games. Right now, there are districts that are emulating what we are doing. The example that we have specifically that's about our size is the Lenape Regional. They do not charge for games, and they really like it. For those of you that don't know, we currently do not charge for games on any level, aside from specific playoff games, correct, Mr. Murphy?
Yes, that's correct, Dr.
Okay. So if you want to come to a football game, you just come to the football game. You still have to use our digital platform. So Mr. Murphy can account for every person. He can do analytics. We know who is in our facility. We control the number of tickets. But right now, we're not currently charging. So when we stop charging, Mr. Murphy, I think we increased by about 400 people at those specific events?
Correct, about 20% increase in fans at events, which
Gotcha.
are basketball, wrestling, and football.
And, the max that we can charge is $5 for adults and $3 for children. The board at the committee discussed the concept of categories within, who should we charge or who shouldn't we charge, so that was a conversation. We will still be using our digital platform regardless of whether we charge or don't charge because we like the analytics and that allows for accountability. If we do decide to charge, the business office is going to have to set up the accounting end of it. When we look at the concept of charging, Kev, I think it's about 4 approximate home football games and about 30 indoor games that would fall into that category, correct?
Correct.
And that would be the sports of football, basketball, wrestling.
Correct.
We did have a conversation about soccer because there's actually more people sometimes that attend soccer than any other, but we did not like the concept of the open field concept because we really can't control it. And where we got to in that conversation was we foresaw disagreements with people who walked around versus not around, and we actually want to put forth a positive culture and not one where we're chasing people to pay a fee. There were varied opinions at the group about what to do with the money that was raised. Kevin, we seem to think that all in, the number was roughly around approximately $20,000 all in on what we could generate. We definitely talked about not having cash because none of us felt comfortable at having cash at a gate. Mr. Murphy, is there anything else I missed in
No,
that
that's
conversation?
perfect. That's right, spot on.
All right, so where it is to the board, this is a board conversation and decision. I would like to ask, if it's okay, I'd like to ask Mr. Murphy his opinion on this as the athletic director. Is it okay if I do that? Okay, Mr. Murphy?
Thank you,
Floor is
Dr.
yours.
Hibbs. Thank you to the board members. We met with the business committee last week. We stumbled into this after COVID. It was 2021 during the COVID where we were limited to 50 people at events. It had to be families, it was masked up, family members only. And we did not charge at that time because of the COVID situation. We came out of COVID and we did the same thing. We followed that same procedure. We saw an increase in school spirit. We saw a great outpouring of community support for our school district where folks would come out and say, hey, this is a wonderful opportunity for me to come out to the game. And we just encouraged a really wholesome sense of community. We witnessed students at the winter events where they would stay. We would charge for JV and varsity at the same time because the games were concurrent. And they would run back to back. Students would stay and support their peers. And it was really wholesome that we created an environment where they felt welcome. Some students don't, quite frankly, have the ability to afford a ticket, and I know it's a minimum fee. It was $2 at the time. it's just a good feeling. A lot of folks came in, encouraged the support. We saw that with the increase of the fans, the spectators that attended the events where we had charged previously. It went over very well in terms of the other schools that came to visit us, and they say, wow, I wish my district did it. The Lenape district, which encompasses Shawnee, Cherokee, Seneca, and Lenape High School, those 4 schools did it last year, and they loved it, and they're going to sign back up again this year that they are not charging for their athletic events for the Lenape regional schools. So all in all, it was a good community building spirit, allowing everybody to attend and take part in our events.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
I have a question. If we charged, could that money be put back into your program so you deal with the money that we charge for the athletic programs?
So historically, the money went into the general fund, and we talked about it with Mrs. Wechter. The athletic program never was a recipient of that direct money that was, charged for athletic events. But Mr. Ross, that would certainly be something that the board could decide if they chose so. Some school districts do that, where the money's generated at athletic events goes back into the athletic budget, correct?
Mr. Ross, a question?
Good.
I think when I was at that meeting, I think we talked about the enterprise account. If you did have an enterprise account and that money went into that account, can you give your opinion on that?
An enterprise account certainly would be one way that the board chose to go that direction, that they would designate an account that would be dedicated to a certain cause, that take that money and spend that money as dedicated in the enterprise account. So that would be one direction that the board could choose to go to support and add more revenue to a certain program. Yes.
How would you use that money? That's what I'm saying.
Well, we'd always be able to use money in certain ways. One would be, we discussed at the business committee meeting, using that money. Currently, right now, we do not provide championship jackets for teams that win championships. The booster clubs contribute greatly. In one exchange, our booster clubs are very, very generous. In one way to say, hey, we support you. They know that booster clubs are primarily parents. So in exchange for free admission, do they give more? Possibly. But in a sense, will we use it for championship jackets? That would be one area that we discussed that would help right now. Right now, we go out and try to fundraise the best we can for state championship jackets. We don't really do anything with sectional or conference championship jackets. That would just be one example.
Mr. Murphy, appreciate everything you do for the athletics programs too.
Thank you.
Question. I know it's a tough situation here because school spirit, everybody loves going to the games. We like the attendance up. We like having those stadiums full. On the other hand, we're faced with budget crisis here. But, some of the things we're talking about using the money like into an enterprise fund where that money probably be using to pay for things that normally wouldn't be in the budget. They'd be in addition to the budget. My question to you is, would you rather have that extra money in that enterprise fund to do things like that? Or would you rather have, it open to the public to come without being charged?
So I'll go with school spirit. I'll go with community spirit because I see folks that come out to games and participate in events where you have 15, 16-year-olds playing sports, and who's coming out on a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon to watch wrestlers or to watch. They know it's free. They come out. They stop in. They leave. They just come in for a little bit of time to support the kids in our community. So I would opt in that area, but that's totally a board decision if you choose to go back to where we had it. And then also moving forward. But what we've found, we kind of stumbled into because of COVID. So if there was a silver lining of COVID, the silver lining is, what are we about? And this is education-based athletics. We're not the Phillies. We're not the Eagles, in terms of like season tickets and looking to do that. It's education-based athletics. And it's really afforded us an opportunity to share that gift with our community.
I was thinking the same thing. I was wondering what the athletes would think. The student athletes, would they rather a jacket or would they rather the school spirit and people there for them, I don't know. School spirit's so important.
So obviously I'm not from Township, right? So in coming to my first legit Township game working here, it was an experience that I wasn't ready for, and it was amazing. And people that take it for granted or come from other places, because I won't name names, you can't put a price tag on what happens at our athletic events, just like you can't put a price tag on Kevin, who's amazing. But, when you put 3,000 people in the stands, it's powerful. There's a sense of spirit that's there. And my fear, and this is totally your decision, my fear is this. If we say to a kid, you can't come to the game unless mommy or daddy connects their Visa card to an app, what's going to happen when the kid comes, A, and doesn't have it, and B, what will the ramifications be? And we won't know unless you do it. But to me, on a Friday night, with a student section that's bigger than any student section I've ever seen, I don't know why we would jeopardize that point. If it's money is money, then I guess I can understand it. However, when you're talking about $20,000 and then kids won't be able to get in, some of them, because their mom or dad will be working or be out or working that second job or whatever that may be, or they just missed each other in the night and didn't get the ticket. It's just, right now, it's something to weigh the question of culture versus money.
If I could real quick. So, Kevin, thank you obviously for everything you do. I don't think I've ever been at the high school where I haven't seen you somewhere on the ground. So thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
The only disconnect I see is that we have a whole nother side of the non-athletics, right? So we have dance concerts, we have musicals, we have the Pops concert, we have plays, and these are all events that parents and students have to pay an average of $10, I'm just going to say across the board, to get into. So if you're going to 3 of your child's shows times 4, it adds up. I mean, that's $120, right? Just right off the bat for one show. So, and the students readily come in and they pay the ticket fee. And those monies are absolutely critical to making sure that those programs run. Without them, I don't think we would have a program. I can't speak to it specifically. I see, Casey's in the room, and I don't know if he could speak to it or wants to. But I'm just going to say, we just have to look at the other side, because there's school spirit absolutely in athletics. I totally agree with you. But there's also school spirit for the non-athletes of going and supporting your fellow student body in participating in shows and Pops concerts and dance. So that's where I wrestle, is that if we're going to make a no fee, then we have to somehow help the visual performing arts side of it be able to fund their programs so the students can show their school spirit in that venue. So I would just like to see a sweeping move that if we're not going to charge for football games, which I'm totally fine with, I'm not for charging, I just would like it to be consistently applied across the student body. And if we're not going to charge for visual performing arts venue, then we have to help fund that.
Carol, I totally 100% agree with that.
Well, I totally agree. I think that, there are parents and people that would want to see our plays, and it's being charged. I think it's an equity issue. I think if we go that route, I agree with Mrs. Chiller. We need to take a look at that, and we need to make that free as well.
All right, so I'm going to be the negative guy, the doomsday guy. Yeah, love to make it free. I think the other side of the coin is we do have budget shortfalls, right? We've just felt that pain. We're probably going to feel that pain again next year. So that's the other side of the coin. You weigh that with how much is $17,000, $20,000 going to offset it. But if we do start making other things free as well, now that cost is going up, right? So I do think we have to weigh that. We are in tough fiscal times, and we're going to continue to be in tough fiscal times. So if we were to charge, this is just my opinion, if we were to charge, I think using that money to offset some costs and not use it for additional costs, and probably because we're using that kind of money in other programs that we charge for, we should be looking at that. It's just the times that we're in. I wish we were flush with cash and we could make everything free for everybody.
I mean, the question is, Scott, I don't think that's a bad point, that when we charged for football games prior, what were those funds used for? I mean, were they used for maintenance? I imagine we have maintenance on the fields, lights. I mean, right? So there's a
the
lot
general fund, don't
of
they?
costs, right? So,
Don't bring that up. Don't do that.
I-
So just to chime in, the way the athletic fees are accounted for, and this is kind of standard for every school, it's part of your general, in the revenue portion of your budget, you have miscellaneous revenues. So it's, you have some kind of budget, but it can vary from year to year. So it goes in as a revenue, which, the higher the revenue, the more you can have in your budget. And then at the end of the year, depending on what you get, whether in all your miscellaneous revenue, if it's over, then you have some that ends up going into your surplus. So I haven't been at a school where athletics has been accounted for, like Ms. Chilla was mentioning for drama. That's a student activities. It definitely wouldn't be an enterprise fund, because enterprise funds, you're supposed to set a fee that's going to pay for the entire cost of the program, and it's accounted for separately. If it could be put aside just for athletics, it would have to be like a student activities fund, so that's something I would review with our auditor to make sure we had everything in place that we needed.
Ralph,
Yeah. Connie?
are we going to vote on this tonight? I wasn't sure.
I think so.
It's just discussion?
That is discussion. It is entirely up to you.
The only thing that,
Well, he's got to know, you have to know one way or
oh,
another.
that's right.
Our
you're on-
first game
you're
is
under a
September
timeframe.
13th. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think what's going to affect my vote is where that money's going to go. If we were to charge, I want to see that money go back to the kids, not just in a big pot of money, but somehow where the athletic director can see how that can actually go back to the kids and they get something for it, okay? So that would be very important to my vote. Where's that money going? It's a two-part thing here. Thanks.
I have a question with Mrs. Chilla with the plays. Do you get a ticket or two if your child's in the play free?
No,
Do senior citizens get it for a lesser price?
no,
Do students get it for a lesser price?
no.
So that to me is something, because I know, Mr. Murphy, you told us that parents get tickets. You have a senior citizen rate that's a little bit less when you charge. We
Senior
talked
citizens
about-
were free, Mrs. Bloom, yes. Mhm.
But we would, so if we're going to, no matter what we do with that, I think we need to think about in the weeks ahead for the performing arts and these other programs, at least giving parents tickets, 2 tickets, and maybe having senior citizens and students at a reduced rate.
So let me just comment on it, because I don't think it's a bad idea, but I can't speak for the visual performing arts and what department, I don't think they would be able to afford to do that. And I say that not as a, like, speaking from a board member, this is prior in being part of fundraising. They would not be able to afford to do that. So I just think it's a conversation to say, again, I'm not necessarily saying we have to charge for football. I'm not. I'm just saying that we have to look at athletes, school spirit, and non-athlete school spirit. And there is definitely a disparity between those two. So I can't speak to the very specifics of where the money should go and where, I can't, but I don't even want to vote on it tonight, because right now, in my own head, we're making a decision to not charge for football. Perfect. But we're still going to charge for all the drama events, and that's necessary for them to keep functioning, because in my opinion, they're underfunded to begin with, right? They are. So I'm just putting it out there. I don't want to suggest we give discounts and free tickets, because it's not going to work.
Well, Kevin, I'm surprised that you wouldn't want that money to go back into your fund to help the kids as opposed to letting them in free, because I understand that some booster clubs are bigger than others, so they maybe can afford those type of things for the kids. But some sports and all don't have booster clubs, or may not have it, or may not have it as big. So I'm surprised that you feel
Yeah,
that way.
and again, just,
But I'm with Mrs. Baker. I'm yes for it if it goes back into the athletics, the individual athletics, for you to decide what it goes for.
and I'm certainly very appreciative of that, Mr. Ross, but, again, when you look at the dollar figures, we're very grateful, but we are fortunate enough to have boosters, and you are absolutely 100% correct to say some booster clubs are bigger than others. And, you know, when you look at our funding, we're very grateful for what the Board of Education gives us. However, it's not nearly enough of what we do in terms of athletics, 1,200 kids participating in athletics, 30 sports, 85 different levels of sports. So the money out there certainly, but when you look at the return on investment that Dr. Hibbs, you know, in terms of the return of 17.5 back in 2020 dollars, we're capped. We're different than the arts because school districts can do that. We're capped by the West Jersey Football League 5 and 3 ticket price, where the arts can charge 15 and 10, I believe, was for the play. And we're capped for basketball. The Tri-County Conference caps us at $4 for an adult ticket, $2 for a student ticket. So our numbers are a little different than the arts in terms of what we can gain and net from that. But just being here for so long and seeing the value, and again, we stumbled into this after COVID, the value of what it meant to kids when you just welcome them in and they come into the event to watch their peers. They probably weren't coming anyway, but now it's free. They're like, oh, let's go to the game, and theme nights developed, and just over the past 4 years, more spirit generated, and as teams and the success of teams happen, we certainly realize the benefit of that. Would we realize the benefit of your generous offer to say, hey, this is something that ticket value, the revenue generated would go to athletics? Certainly we would benefit that. So I'm kind of torn, but I would never place the dollar over a kid or a senior citizen or anybody that wanted to come into our events. And I think that's a benefit and a credit to our school system and what the Board of Education does, providing that atmosphere that's second to none in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Okay. Casey, you wanted to say something?
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to speak on behalf of the visual performing arts. When we start getting into that conversation, there are many, many layers to it. You know, trying to be as simple as possible. There's the curricular aspect, and then there's the extracurricular aspect. So, for instance, you know, a student who's in, we'll say, chorus in middle school. You know, when they're getting a grade for what they end up putting on. We do not charge parents for that. You know, and so there are certain concerts during the year that literally they're free because they're a curricular experience. Now, we have added over the years, because we have the infrastructure that we have, like a major performing arts center, to go above and beyond, aka, as Ms. Chilla mentioned, the Pops concert. We do charge for that event. Yes, students are still getting a grade for it, but that's above and beyond what we normally offer. So we offer our parents opportunities to see their students perform for free, which is important. But then we also give our students another experience by then using that money to offset lights, professional musicians, enhance sound, enhance, you know, obviously our parent booster organization adds in. So when we start having this discussion, we just have to be very careful as to where that line is drawn. Another great example is when we brought the dance program into this district, I want to say 2002. That dance program started completely self-funded. And what I mean by that, other than at the time the administration did hire a dance instructor, that entire program is pretty much self-funded. So their concert at the end of the year, they do one, and it's huge, 1,500 people easily. That helps offset their costs for costumes for the entire year. They do not get allocated pretty much, if all, any kind of monies from our general budget each year, like some of the other performing arts do. Those two dance teachers and those students fundraise a lot of money. They're always selling apparel. They're doing everything they can. They are also providing a lot of their costumes at times. So just like sports families, I'm sure they put out for their own equipment and whatnot. There's a little bit of that too. My point in trying to illustrate this is that we offer the things that we do, but everything comes at a price, right? So we just have to imagine, we just have to think about where are we charging the students, where are we charging, you know, our spectators to come, and then we add in our musicals and our plays. I see Mr. Scardino here as well. You know, without putting him on the spot, he does not get a large budget. You know, where things like rights for a show have to be offset by his ticket sales. If we want to pick to do a show, No different than in an ELA class, we want to pick to use this particular book. The district pays for that book. And there are times, most times, where we don't pay for the book to do the musical. That's all. We got to hope we put people in the seats in order to offset that. And so we're constantly funding ourselves as we go. So, obviously, wasn't expecting to speak tonight. I just want the board to understand that if we're going to align, we're two very different departments, but we're trying to do the same thing. We're trying to give our students an experience, which is super important. But then for us in the arts and for Mr. Murphy in athletics, we need the people to come cheer them on. And I think the great example is the Olympics this year as a sporting event. The big difference in the Olympics this year versus 3 years ago is there were spectators there. Because of COVID, there were not. And we felt that in the arts. We had a huge resurgence after we were able to bring people in. We want to perform, but we want to perform for an audience too. So we just have to weigh those factors as we go forth with this discussion, should it go any further. Thank you.
Thanks, Case.
Well, I think you need an answer tonight, right, Kevin?
Yes, our first game is September 13th for football.
I think we should make a decision.
Do you want us to put together, we can put together a brief on all extracurriculars, how we charge, where the money goes. We could submit that to you before the end of the week, and then you could have time to discuss that at next week and then mull that over to make an informed decision.
Dr. Hibbs?
Yep.
Can you also just, I don't know if you'll have time to do this, but also just, there were some comments about, I think Mr. Corigliano brought it up, about like in middle school and different venues, they're paying for the lights, right? I don't know if the football team is paying for the light, like we're not charging, right? So I just want to understand the landscape. I don't know if you'll have enough time to do all that, but we have some venues paying for lights. We have others that are not. It just seems like it's a little bit all over the place with what we as a board contribute to the programs, and there's a little bit of inequity.
Okay.
But I'm comfortable to make a decision. I don't want to see the kids have to have an app and then parents getting like crazy and trying to make sure the kid goes in and pays for it. Like, I would love to see full stands, and I think that the student athletes and the student non-athletes work all summer and all year long to do that. I would like to see what we pay for as a board, what we contribute versus what's fundraising. Because if we're saying lights and microphones and all of these things, and then other parts of the district they're being paid for, that just seems like a little off to me.
Kev, can you wait till next week?
Oh, hang on.
Certainly, we can wait till last week.
Bounce off you guys. I think that analysis is great. I think it's going to take a while. Now, just throw this out there. If we did vote to charge and the money went into the general fund, right? Once that money's in the general fund, I'm just going to use an example because it was brought up, the board decided they wanted to pay for championship jackets, right? Could you make a transfer from that general fund to that fund? So we could move that money. It'd be below the threshold of what would be allowed for transfers from accounts, right?
It would, but you'd actually have to have another budget line item to transfer from. So like when you draft the budget, your revenue projection drives what you have in each account. So you'd have to come up with the money from somewhere else.
That's where that student fund would be.
Yeah. Unless it was in a student activity fund, but again, that's not the norm, so I would have to talk to, our auditor about that, which I'm sure I could have an answer by next week.
So it wouldn't be easy to make a transfer. Like if we just voted now to put it in the general fund, what we did with that money later on down the road would be difficult.
I would say specifically for this year, because the budget's already done without that projection. Next year, if you said, oh, we're going to budget an additional $50,000, let's say, because we know we'll get that for athletics, then you could increase what your athletics line item, you could put that in, you could allocate it to athletics. For next year.
next week.
Next week, yeah.
No worries, no worries.
Case,
Keep me
is that,
updated.
Case, is it a feasible lift to break out all the arts and what we pay in a week?
Right before we open it?
I'm an office of one. I mean, is it, feel free.
We receive $2,000 a year, and that's been the same rate for the last 24 years, I think, to run the program for the entire year.
Can you come up to the mic, do you mind?
Sure.
Come on,
I think
it's a
that's
party.
enough. So we receive $2,000 a year. It's been the same rate for 24 years now, at the middle school level, to run 2 major stage productions plus a talent show. Just to give you an idea, the rights and royalties for a musical, along with if you're going to get the accompaniment music, is over $2,000 itself.
So you pay for that out of the revenue that you,
We have to use the revenue to costume, to rent wireless microphones, to rent, to purchase batteries, to build the set, to paint the set, extra lights, all those things. I usually spend probably somewhere conservatively in a year around $12,000. And we get 2.
have you asked for more?
We could ask, but I don't know where it's going to come from.
Well, I agree. If we're going to fund some athletic things, we should be funding them too.
Thank you.
So, okay, this is going to end up being way bigger than probably what we could manage in this moment. I will. Can we all acknowledge that? Okay. So then.
So I guess.
Yep.
And we're at the point where we either got to decide to charge, right, and have it go to the general fund, and we can figure it out for next year, or to not charge, and we go about trying to figure this all out for next year.
Yeah.
I'll jump in, just right away. I think at this, what is it? It's August 20th, to now institute charging now to get parents aware and students aware of what they're going to have to download, what app they're going to use, and the first game September 13th. I think it's something we have to revisit for next year, just based on the time constraint. I'm sure it's just one more thing that parents have to figure out. We have to make sure it's effectively communicated. Then you're going to have kids show up that are used to being free. Then they're going to say, what do you mean it's not free? And then it's going to be a whole thing. So I think that, we have to communicate it out. We have Callisto coming on the board soon. This is a great topic for a student Board of Ed rep to kind of facilitate some discussion with your peers, right? So to me, I would say no charge for this year because of the timing of it. I just asked a ton of questions and probably put work on people that I probably shouldn't have. But I'd like to see that analysis, but in the interest of starting school, I don't think that's feasible. I'd like to see it discussed in the future and really plan and communicate it. That's my opinion. So I say no charge this year, but we have to work out a plan, I think, for this year to talk about putting on these productions, because it's unfair that we continue to have the visual performing arts for those non-curricular activities to try to be supplemented by parents and others. So my position is that we don't charge because of the interest of time, and I'd love to see Callisto get some feedback from her peers.
I agree with you. I agree. I think I had the opportunity to listen last week and to listen this week. And as I hear that it's such a thing for students go and they might not have the money, and I'm worried about the budget, but for the sake of $20,000 until we figure this out, I'd rather hold it too.
Well, nobody's put a motion on the table.
Have a motion to-
Leaves it as it is.
We don't need a motion. If we're not going to charge, we don't need a motion. It just stays as it
Keep
is.
it the way it is until we have a time to.
Yeah. Case and Kev, let's shoot for like a November conversation to have real items so that we can talk about, what Mr. Scardino talked about 24 years worth of $2,000. How is that a thing? To address those issues and see what we can do and the board can do. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
All right, there we go.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Kev, can you stay for a sec? Yep. All right, so he's gonna punch me soon. Okay, so the other discussion item on here was naming, the concept of naming the back turf in honor of Coach Tony DeLucas. You want to take just a sec and talk about that?
Sure. So Coach Tony DeLucas is a teacher, coach in Washington Township for over 30 years. Coach DeLucas taught history and driver's education 1967 to 1997. He was a graduate of the University of Delaware, where he was a quarterback on the football team for Tubby Raymond, graduate of Woodbury High School, but he spent his whole career here in Washington Township. He coached our varsity football team for 16 years. He's a 1970 team, went undefeated 50 years ago. We honored them in 2021. We couldn't do it during COVID in 2020, so we brought them back. And there's about 21 players that came back, and they started to really talk about putting Coach's name on the field. And it's our back turf field right behind our stadium, which is state-of-the-art turf field. We refer to it as the back turf field. And the class 1970 football team and the class of 1971 started talking about, hey, let's get Tony DeLucas' name up on that field. Then we honored one of his championship teams from the early 80s subsequently last year. And the same players, different players came up, different families, the DeLucas family. Tony unfortunately passed away a few years ago, and his family started to advocate for it. And there's football members of the football community, members of our community. Mrs. Wechter mentioned that Mr. DeLucas taught her driver's education. I just found out tonight that Mr. DeLucas kicked Mr. Lucarini out of class, I think twice, Mr. Lucarini. So that's an automatic for me. No, I'm just teasing Mr. Lucarini. But with that being said, you will not find a better gentleman. After he coached 16 years at Washington Township, he continued to teach here. He went on to Rowan University, where he helped lead them to 2 national championships. My first 3 years here, early 2000s, Coach DeLucas was back as a volunteer coach on our freshman football team. It was an amazing staff. We had Judge Wallace, you had Tony DeLucas, and the freshmen didn't even know. He had 14-year-old guys out there, and I'm like, you have 2 legends coaching you right now. But it's fitting, it's time. I appreciate the board listening last week as we went into depth. Coach, great teacher, great coach, but the perfect gentleman. And I think for our community to honor Tony DeLucas by naming that back turf field in his honor would be just very, very fitting.
Have a motion to, we have to vote on that.
Any discussion?
Can we just
Agree to it, or do we have to make a motion to vote on it?
Make a motion.
I make a motion to name the back turf field in honor of Coach Tony DeLucas.
Second.
Discussion? I guess we're going to get a roll call on that.
There we go.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mrs. Cello?
Yes.
Ms. DeMayo?
Yes.
Mr. LaLiberty?
Yes.
Mr. Lindsay?
Yes.
Mr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
No,
Okay.
thank you very much. And we're looking, I've been in communication with the families. Thank you. We're looking at a Saturday late in October to announce this and name the field and have a small ceremony, but we'll get information to Dr. Hibbs and to all board members to come out later in October on a Saturday morning. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, need a motion to go back into executive session.
So, hold on one sec. Discussion?
Yeah, just this.
Discussion. Could we, do we want to go through this,
No,
open it to the public first?
I don't think you can. Usually do old
Can we,
business first.
can we open it to the public first?
You have to go.
Why would you have to do that?
Hold on, where's the agenda?
Because we have things on the agenda that we're going to discuss.
Yeah, we don't vote until H.
But there were other items that were on the executive agenda that we didn't discuss.
I get it, but why
Well, we
couldn't we
could
go?
open it to the public and, I mean, we can move the agenda around. Talk to the attorney, just get that out of the way.
I would just do the conversation and then come back. Just go.
I think we have to
Yeah.
do a conversation and then come back. I just don't.
All right, I have a motion to go into executive session.
But you have to say.
Hey, guys, I know this is probably not popular. I totally understand it. Let me explain the why. If we don't do this now, the board will not effectively be able to make some decisions. So please bear with us. They're going to try and do it as fast as possible, and then we will come back out.
We're going to leave.
We're gonna leave you.
We're leaving.
Yeah, you guys stay.
We still.
And you can talk about us when we're gone.
Okay.
The motion, which now we have to.
We have to do a motion to go into second,
Yeah.
right?
You made the
I need-
motion, now we second the vote.
We need a vote on it.
Okay. We have to vote on the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Slow down, will you? Jesus. All right, resolved that pursuant to Section 8 of the Open Public Meeting Act, the public shall be excluded from that portion of the meeting involving the discussion of personnel, attorney-client privileges, and candidates for the vacancy of school board.
No, no, you're good, you're good.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. Back in and we'll pick up on the agenda where we left off, which is school and community relations.
Nothing for now. More regular to come next week or next time.
Old business?
I have a motion. I'd like to make a motion and nominate Linda Hartong for the vacant board seat.
Second.
So moved. Second.
Any other nominations?
Oh, we got to vote first, or can I
I
nominate?
thought we vote first and then...
Any
Nomination
other?
first? Yeah. Jim Arpino, I'd like to nominate Jim Arpino for the vacant board seat.
Second?
Anyone, anything else? All right, I guess we need a vote for one at a time, Larry? All right. Discussion? Any discussion? Okay, I guess we're voting for Linda first.
There's a policy on this, isn't
Yeah,
there?
it's policy 01.
You go, we good. Just make sure we follow it so it's not challenged.
The first candidate who receives the vote of a majority of the remaining board members will be appointed to the vacancy.
Got to speak into the
No, I wasn't talking publicly, but I was just indicating that the first candidate who receives the votes of a majority of the remaining board members will be appointed to the vacancy pursuant to the policy.
Just lean. Yeah, I think you just gotta lean it closer.
All I was doing was referencing the policy which indicates that the first candidate who receives a majority of the remaining board members' votes is ultimately appointed to that seat. That's directly from the policy to answer your question.
Thanks.
So we want to vote on, we'll just go ahead.
Yes, yeah. If either one receives a majority, then the
Okay.
voting stops.
All right, Lori, we're going to call each individual and see who they vote for. So,
No, I'm sorry. A roll call, to be clear, Lori, a roll call will be conducted on the candidates in the order that they were nominated.
Okay.
So the first candidate that was nominated was Linda.
we didn't have any discussion on this? All right, Linda, roll call.
So hold on.
So I'm going to make a roll call. Go ahead. Go ahead, Scott.
The roll call will be given, and this is for Linda Hartong. So a yes would be you support her, and a no would be you don't.
Correct. If she receives a majority, the process is done. If she doesn't, it's on to the next.
Mrs. Baker?
No.
Mrs. Bloom?
No.
Mrs. Chilla?
Yes.
Ms. DeMayo?
Yes.
Mr. LaLiberty?
Yes.
Mr. Lindsay?
Yes.
Mr. Serrano?
No.
Mr. Ross?
No.
4 noes, 4 yes.
All right. All right, roll call for Mr. Alpino.
Can I just ask who was the second to that?
The second?
I second it.
Okay. And this is for James Arpino?
Correct.
Okay.
Who was the second for that one?
That was Scott.
No,
Who was the second for Mr. Arpino, guys?
I second it.
Thanks, Scott.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilla?
No.
Ms. DeMayo?
No.
Mr. LaLiberty?
No.
Mr. Lindsay?
No.
Mr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes. So it's 4-4.
4 again?
What's next, Lori?
Ralph, to answer your question, the next step would be, does anyone know when the 65 days is up?
It's,
I think around the 23rd of August,
Is it?
somewhere around
Okay.
August. August
So if nothing
23rd.
happens at the next board meeting, it will be incumbent on the county superintendent to appoint a candidate out of the list of candidates.
Since we're kind of like deadlocked, can they...
Okay, I think it was at the board meeting when Mr. Tom Zach resigned, that was when the 60 days would start?
6:25.
65, so maybe somebody can count them.
Regardless, if we're at 55 now, the next board meeting is a week from now, that would still be within the 65 days. If no candidate is appointed, it will go to the county superintendent at day 65. It will be up to the county superintendent at that point.
And there needs to be 5 votes for that.
Correct. This is, we need a majority.
Okay.
We need 5 votes, actually. We should. else is not
Yep.
here. Yes.
Okay. Any other old business?
I have some old business.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to some Washington Township graduates who were involved in the 2024 Olympics in Paris from July 26th to August 11th. Congratulations to 1984 Washington Township graduate, 1993 Sports Hall of Fame, Cheryl Reeve. She was a USA women's basketball coach, then they won the gold medal. Bells Elementary School and Washington Township 2022 graduate, Amy Wang, who was victorious in her Olympic debut at table tennis in the first match. Washington Township 2004 high school graduate, Erin Bollendorf, who was involved with all of the track and field events for CBS. I think CBC. Washington Township 2006, Mark Bono, Executive Director of Global Syndication Operations for NBC, achieving a significant milestone internationally for the first time, delivering content to 44 African countries. Both Erin and Mark were fortunate to have former teacher Marty Burchard to instruct them and motivate them as students in his TV production class. Both were involved with the TV production Rewind, informing the community of events. By the way, that was Erin Bollendorf for CBS. Thanks. Pretty neat that we had so many people involved.
Any other old business?
Yeah, Rob. We previously discussed town halls, and I don't know where that's going or where that went, but when's our town hall going to be scheduled
Well,
for?
here's my thought on it. We've already got a committee, an ad hoc committee for the business, and Pat's going to spearhead another committee for community input on curriculum and school business. I mean, do we still need a town hall since we got these two?
I think we should.
Okay. Then I'll organize it and bring it up at the next board meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, have a motion to open it to the public on agenda items only?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Mark Lopez?
Good evening. My name is Mark Lopez, and I'm a teacher at Orchard Valley Middle School and a proud WTEA member. I deliver this speech on behalf of myself and fellow employees in a concerted effort to address educational issues, school matters of community interest, and employee working conditions. First, I'd like to issue 2 apologies and corrections with explanations. My first apology is to Superintendent Eric Hibbs, whom in a previous speech I questioned about his timing of reaching out to the offices of Senator Paul Moriarty for funding advocacy. After speaking with both the Senator and his Chief of Staff, I confirmed that Superintendent Eric Hibbs did communicate with the Chief of Staff early on in the school budget process, and later in the process had a Zoom meeting with the Senator. The Senator did confirm his belief that Township has been overfunded for years. I still believe that the Township family should have been notified earlier of the disputed budget crisis and that a community funding advocacy action plan should have been initiated. My second apology is to Elementary Supervisor Gretchen Gerber. I stated in a previous speech that elementary art and elementary world language were reduced. Neither of these were reduced. At the April 30th board meeting, a presentation of the budget crisis stated that 36 teachers and 55 support staff would be laid off. Neither at this board meeting nor any subsequent board meeting was there a presentation to the community as to how the Township pre-K through 12 program would be changing. Staff members, pre-K through 12, were all communicating amongst themselves via phone calls, texting, emailing, and in-person conversations, trying to track and piece together what administration was doing behind closed doors. When there is no transparency or stakeholder participation, misinformation does spread. Second, I'd like to thank the Board of Education for their corrected course as exhibited in their restoration of many of the positions originally slated to be cut. Lastly, I would like to speak about the overwhelming number of changes that employees will be experiencing this school year. All staff will be transitioning from Microsoft to Google products, PowerSchool to Genesis Student Information System, and Marzano to the Danielson Evaluation Instrument. The middle school employees will be expected to transition to a new middle school schedule. Numerous Orchard Valley Middle School teachers will have grade level changes, changes in what classes they teach, additional class preparations added, and physical classroom relocations. I am one of the OVMS teachers who will be experiencing all of the previous. It is overwhelming, and it makes me wonder if all of these changes truly all should be occurring at the exact same time. I respectfully thank the Board of Education for their volunteer service to our community. Thank you.
Any other yellow cards?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Any other yellow cards?
No.
Okay, now a motion to close to the public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay. All right, moving on. Committee reports. HR negotiations, Mrs. Baker.
Personnel Committee met. We discussed employees who are going to be riced. There was an update on the health benefits new plan, and we discussed new hires.
Is it? Is it? Okay. Business Committee, Mr. La Liberty.
Yep, all right. We met on 14th. We spent a lot of time talking about the whole ticket charging issue, as we all heard about, so won't go over that one again. We talked about the naming of the field. We did talk about the energy audit update. We've received draft reports for each building. We're going to meet again, so the business committee is going to meet again on Monday, the 26th, to get the preliminary results back, start talking through that. So that's moving forward. We did talk through the Budget Community Task Force discussion. So this is just a reminder, everybody, right? The board has approved us moving forward with the Community Task Force. So it's open to the public. There's a memo out. We're still accepting people for that, or people to put in for that up until tomorrow. So August 21st is the deadline. And you'd need to give us a letter of intent, which could be as simple as an email saying, I want to participate in this, and I've got budget experience, or just why you think you would be a good addition to that task force. If you have a resume, it's and/or a resume, so you can attach the resume. If you don't have a resume, that shouldn't dissuade you. So we'll be going through all of those resumes and letters of intent on Monday the 26th as well. Hopefully we can pick the committee members and then put forth a plan on moving that forward. So as you all could hear tonight, there's a lot of things for us to talk through, like how we're going to generate money. We talked through upcoming purchasing items and using some of the cooperative agreements. We talked through updates to the agreements for the police LEOs and SROs, and talked through lunch prices and the increase that will be there, and recommendations that will be going to the board for that increase, temporary facilities approval, and then dealing with the RBAC issue, renaming of the turf field, and also potential sponsorships for a scoreboard. So we're looking at an option for a advertising type scoreboard. So essentially we could get the scoreboard replaced for free and potentially have it generate money for us in the future. So more to come on that. That could be a really good thing for us. The one other thing I want to bring up, we still have the open member seat. I know, Ralph, you've been inviting Connie to that, but I know Sean has asked to be a part of that committee as well. I would like to have Sean as part of that committee, especially with the energy audit and a lot of those topics affecting things like trades and capital projects and things like that. When we had Dave on there, he was able to offer that perspective and a lot of input there. I think Sean has similar perspective on that, so I'd love to have him on the committee. Something for you to consider. I know you were thinking through that. I don't know if you had an answer on that. That's it.
Okay. IA Committee, Mr. Bloom?
Yes, at our meeting, we had myself, Mrs. Chilla, Mr. Ross, Mrs. Gerber, Ms. Grimaldi, Dr. Nathan, and Dr. Hibbs came in for a little bit of the meeting. We discussed, Ms. Grimaldi reported that there will be school-based mental health counseling available for students in our programs, the BSP and ESP programs, newly housed at Orchard Valley Middle School and our high school this year. There's a course being offered, and I forget, Dr. Nathan, what was the college that was offering the course in leadership? Yes, yes. Can you say that loud? Okay, there's a new agreement with New Jersey City University to offer one course at this point for dual credit, and it has to do with the ROTC leadership class, and it's open to anybody that wants to take it in the district. We have a new system of getting your transcripts or your grades for alumni of the school district. It's called the Parchment Transcript Service. Ms. Grimaldi shared information about this to our committee. It should be starting in September of this year. The company will process requests for transcripts and graduation verification from their office. A small fee will be charged for this service. A prior request was made for a school-based research project, and we did a little bit more research, and we talked to our lawyer. The project will be by KM, and the information gathered in this project will be confidential. That's one thing that we wanted to make sure is going to happen, and it will not include any students in this project. Our board attorney have reviewed it, and we're ready to go with seeking an approval for that. The course of study manual for the 2024-2025 school year has been updated and is ready for the new school year. Revisions have been made to ELA and math due to new or updated state standards. Curriculum revisions or new courses in our new or existing academy programs were also included in the course of study manual. And lastly, a list of our 2024-2025 field trips throughout the district are also being presented for approval tonight. And that's what we talked about in our committee.
Policy Committee, Mr. Serrano?
Thank you. So we had our meeting on August 6th? August 12th? Forget.
Give me a sec. Second.
Sorry about that. Board members in attendance were Steve Serrano, myself, President Ralph Ross, and Mrs. Baker. Administrators in attendance, Dr. Hibbs, Director Sweeney, and Dr. Nathan.
12, Mr. Serrano.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Forgot to put the date down. Artificial intelligence policy and regulation was one of the items that we discussed. Student cell phone policy and regulation. The valedictorian policy and regulation is moving along and will be ready this school year. Student activities and communication, we discussed the 24-25 fall athletic schedules, 24-25 MS fall field hockey schedule, and 24-25 Tri-County Conference Spectator Code of Conduct. The additional policies and regulations that we discussed, Policy 2200, Curriculum Content, Policy 3160, Physical Examination, Policy 4160, Physical Examination as well, TB, some tuberculosis test updates to those policies. Policy 5337, service animals. Policy 5350, student suicide intervention. Policy 8420, emergency crisis situation. Policy 8467, firearms and weapons. Policy 9181, volunteer athletic coaches and co-curricular activity advisors and assistants. Regulation 5511, dress code. Regulation 5530, substance abuse. Regulation 5600, student discipline. And the last was Regulation 2624, the grading system. That's all, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Report of the superintendent.
Yeah, we only have one action item on there. Action item 1, the approval of the comprehensive equity plan statement of assurance for 2025. Just need a motion and a second and approval.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Cello?
Yes.
Mr. Mayo?
Yes.
Mr. La Liberty?
Yes.
Mr. Lindsay?
Yes.
Mr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Instructional affairs, ask for a motion to approve item number 1.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Just a quick little note, so thank you for reviewing that. And the addition that we made there on the non-disclosure, is that now going to be made to any future form? Like, is that a form that'll be used going forward?
Correct. I mean,
Yeah.
it can be, that wasn't contemplated, but it certainly would make sense.
Yeah,
I would suggest that.
totally agree. Dr. Nathan, did you hear that? Okay, thank you.
And I'm
Perfect.
glad we got to a resolution
Yep,
yet, so
absolutely.
research can be
Any
done.
other
Thank you, sir.
discussion?
Thank you, Dr. Nathan.
Mr. Mayo?
Yes.
Mr. La Liberty?
Yes.
Mr. Lindsay?
Yes.
Mr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker? Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Ms. Chillo?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Student activities, motion to approve student activities 1 to 3.
Policy.
Are those missed policy?
Policy first, yep.
I'm sorry.
Policy 1 through 5.
1 through 5, policy number 1 through 5. Motion,
So moved.
Second.
discussion, roll call.
Hang on one sec. I had a couple comments on these that were addressed, but on 4, the volunteer athletic one, if you look at that one, at the end,
Yep.
where it says optional, then there's a note that says delete this optional section. But then that's where it says all volunteer athletic coaches or co-curricular activity assistants must choose one or more of the following. I think we have to choose one or more of those, right? Like possess a teacher's credential, obtain criminal history check, sign waiver.
I think it was supposed to be deleted, wasn't it, Sean?
It was. We had confirmed, we do the background checks and medical history checks. We can include that language.
I would like that to be included for the next read. That, personally, I would
Okay.
like to see that, just so it's
No
saying
problem.
that we do the criminal check and we get the,
No problem. Yep, perfect. Not a problem.
Any other discussion, roll call.
Mr. La Liberty?
yes.
Mr. Lindsay?
Yes.
Mr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Ms. Chilla?
Yes.
Mr. Mayo?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes. Human Resources,
SAC, 1 to 3.
Yeah,
says,
it's okay, that one.
oh, student activities, I'm
Yep,
sorry.
1 through 3.
Items number 1 through 3 on student activities,
So moved.
Second.
discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lindsay?
Yes.
Mr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Ms. Chilla?
Yes.
Ms. DeMayo?
Yes.
Mr. La Liberty?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
We kind of skipped over our board goals. Are we doing that tonight or not? That was supposed to be after the
That
presentation.
was when Terry Lewis, we were going to do it with.
So we don't work on board goals then?
I'm sorry?
Next week, board goals will be next week as well as
Yeah.
district goals?
Yes.
Okay, I just thought it was this week.
I'll provide you with the present goals and the goals that some of you asked for.
So I just want to say maybe if we could do it at the first work session. I know personally I won't be here because I'll be sending off my daughter to college. And I think there are others, so I'm just going to ask, could we do it at the work session to do board goals? I'd like to be a part of the conversation, but I won't be here next week.
When would the work session? Next month?
It would be September.
That, I may have a conflict with that.
Okay.
I mean, can we do it tonight? We can't do it because we didn't meet with Ms. Lewis?
She was here to provide an ethics presentation.
Oh, okay.
I think since she was going to do our goals. Yeah, she was going to give us direction on goals.
From last year, I don't remember I sat here. I don't wish she was not here last year. I just
Ralph,
think it's
do you want me
important
to
that we all be
reach
here
out
for that.
to Terry Lewis and see what dates are best for her, and then we can go from there?
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting we do it. We're going to use Terry Lewis, our board representative.
I just know I won't be here in September, and I really
it's
want to be
fine.
part of that, too.
I don't want to delay, I just won't be here next week. So whatever you guys want to do, if you want to have the discussion.
Lewis is available yet.
Yeah, well,
That's fine.
I'm hoping she's here next week. You all right with that, Pat? Are you in?
No.
Okay.
I think it's good to have, because I think we're different opinions on what the board goals should be, so I think having her here might be beneficial.
She didn't hear you say next week. I mean, that assumes Terry Lewis is available.
Yeah.
There's a lot of assumptions here.
That's a big assumption.
Assuming that Terry will be here, you're not okay with next week?
Well, Carol won't be here next week.
Well,
and
Carol
I just think-
she could submit whatever.
But I think it's really important.
I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one that's going to be here, right? I won't be here. Scott, you mentioned you're not going to be here. So we could do it. I'm just saying, I just want to be honest and say why I won't be here. So if it doesn't matter.
We'll have to postpone it. Pat, I'm sorry, but we'll have to postpone it until September.
Okay, that won't work for me, but okay.
If it won't work for her, then we can't.
About October.
We'll try and pick a date when all board can be here.
Just real quick, I'm just going to jump in. There's nothing stopping us too from having a special meeting just on board goals in September, once everyone gets back. I mean, it's usually, we should give it its, you know what I mean, its time, so I don't know if that's possible too, to have
Okay
a
with a special
separate.
meeting.
I need it to be an early.
We'll reach out
Early
to
September.
special meeting. Is that what your suggestion, Carol?
Yeah, I mean, if
Why don't you
Pat
pick a
has,
date? Why don't you
yeah,
pick a date right now?
if Pat has a conflict with the work session, then I don't think we should completely discount her and say,
I would have to reach
it
out
doesn't
to
matter.
Ralph. I think it depends on,
I'll check with Terry, see when she's
That would
available.
be great.
And then we'll pick a
That'd be
time
great.
for possible special
Be
meeting.
in early September.
We don't feel rushed.
Okay, we got it. Okay. Human Resources, motion for items number 1 to 68.
So moved.
Second,
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Serrano,
Yes to everything except 58 due to salary.
Mrs. Baker,
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom,
I'm yes to everything except for number 58 because of salary and the morale issue of that salary.
Mrs. Chillo,
Yes to all.
Ms. DeMayo,
yes.
Mr. LaLiberty,
Yes.
Mr. Lindsay,
Yes.
Mr. Ross.
Yes, except for number 58 because of salary.
That didn't pass, right?
Yes, it did.
It did pass.
Oh, it did pass?
It's passed.
58 did?
Yep.
Okay. We be? Okay, yeah, okay. Gotcha, sorry. Can't add.
Sean has something.
Oh,
Just one
can I
second.
do something real quick? Yeah. I want to celebrate Mike. So, good job.
Give him the bro hug.
Doesn't happen very often in life, so that's pretty cool, man.
Hell yeah.
That's a lot of love for you.
All right, we good? Real quick, I'd like to make a motion under Human Resources. I'd like to add an item, number 69, to the personnel agenda. I'd like to vote and make a motion for the superintendent, personal and miracles. I'd like to make a motion to vote on that.
Second.
Discussion?
So this would be for the goals that are sent in that we discussed earlier in exec, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
He said personal and merit. Yeah.
Personal and merit.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You want to clarify?
You're good. You did.
Ari, do I need to leave, or I just?
No, you don't need to leave, you just abstain. Yeah.
Roll call.
Any discussion? I just wish that we would vote on it at another time. If we just gave him to us so we could look at it a little more, but roll call?
Mrs. Baker?
Abstain.
Mrs. Bloom?
Abstain.
Ms. Chilla?
Yes.
Ms. DeMayo?
Yes.
Mr. LaLiberty?
Yes.
Mr. Lindsay?
Yes.
Mr. Serrano?
Abstain. I'd like a little bit more time to review them.
Mr. Ross?
Abstain too, for more time.
It's 4-4.
No,
You don't.
4. If the vote carries.
Abstains don't count.
Abstains don't count.
Yep.
Okay.
Good. Moving on.
Okay, moving on. Finance, facilities, motion for approved items number 1 to 2.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Ms. Chilla?
Yes.
Ms. DeMayo?
Yes.
Mr. LaLiberty?
Yes.
Mr. Lindsay?
Yes.
Mr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes. Special education, no items. Negotiations, not at this time.
New business.
Any new business? Anybody?
I just have a question for Ari.
Yeah.
Ari, we have had petitions go through for school board members. Some of us on the board signed some of those petitions. I would just like the public to hear whether or not that's something we should be doing, shouldn't be doing, and if we as a board think that we maybe need a policy so that we don't do this. I just want the public to know how it works.
Well, Pat, all I could say is that it's not a legal conflict. I can't tell you if you should be doing it or you shouldn't be doing it, and I certainly can't tell you the board should have a policy on it. That's for you guys to decide. Hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. Could I ask, how many people other than me signed petitions this year?
Yeah, I did.
I did.
Yeah.
Just for transparency. Okay,
Anything else, Pat?
no.
That's it. Okay, a motion to open.
I have something for new business. I want to explore it in policy, to talk about a policy just in terms of when we solicit vendors, to not have vendors have political contributions. So I think it's something that if you could put in policy, some kind of a criteria or a scoring sheet when we look at the RFP, whether or not they can, would we accept political donations or not, and how we could fit that into our criteria, just as a policy discussion.
Sounds good.
That'd be awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you want me to email you?
Absolutely.
Any other new business?
I just have a question on that for the solicitor. Is political donations within the law?
Are you asking if they're legal?
Well, what was brought up is that we want to make a policy that if you make a political donation, you're not going to be considered. I'm just asking if it's
Yeah, so
against the law or
it's not against the law. As you all know, I mean, policies, you know, it doesn't have to be something that's dictated in the law to include it in your policy. That's really an internal discussion that you guys would have. But no, it's not against the law.
Okay.
And just to clarify, I wasn't saying that it's against the law. I would just like the board to explore, when we have RFPs and we're using vendors, the notion of exploring the concept of not having those vendors made political contributions. We've made decisions recently and in the past on vendors who, when we researched their political contributions, that they were not, I'm not going to say that they weren't selected, but that was in favor that they didn't. We recently just had that happen. So I'm just saying I'd like to explore it in policy. There's no illegal activity happening. It's perfectly within the law to make a political contribution. I just think that we should explore it as a board.
I feel like we mentioned doing that a couple of years ago, and I thought you were in favor of that a couple of years ago, Connie, but I could be wrong, but I think nothing wrong with the conversation.
Would we be getting ourselves in any contracting law issues if we put that as, in a policy as it's a decision criteria? And then we'd have to say reportable, right? Because that's the only way you could track it.
I'll have to look into that. I don't have an answer for you right now, but I'll look into that and let you know.
Any other new business? A motion to open to the public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do I need a roll call for that?
No.
Okay. Okay. Rob Scardino?
Rob Scardino, WTEA Executive Vice President. Good evening, members of the Board of Education. I come to you this evening as I'm afraid the lines of communication between the Washington Township Board of Education and the Washington Township Education Association have either been interrupted by central administration, severed completely, or are otherwise being ignored. The WTEA is attempting to schedule a grievance hearing at level 3 with the Board of Education in regard to a change in middle school schedule, which is a violation of the collective bargaining agreement. In fact, the first attempt to schedule this hearing was sent on June 22nd by the WTEA Middle School Vice President and was not responded to. In addition, my communication attempts to the board have not been answered by the board, but have been answered by Dr. Hibbs and Mr. Sweeney, which is a violation of the collective bargaining agreement, as they are level 2 respondents and not level 3, which should be the board president. This lack of communication alarms me, as not only does it violate the collective bargaining agreement, but we are about to move into bargaining, and not only am I the grievance chair, but I'm also in the negotiations chair as well. This does not fare well if the collective bargaining agreement is to be conducted in good faith and without the interference of central administration. The following is the most recent email I sent to Board President Ross, which bears great importance to the Board of Education and the collective bargaining agreement between the Board of Education and the Washington Township Education Association. Dear Mr. Ross, I am once again requesting a level 3 grievance hearing in regard to the violation of agreement between the Washington Township Board of Education and the Washington Township Education Association, Article 7D, which states that in the event that the board elects to implement alternate scheduling at any level, the board agrees to negotiate with the association the terms and conditions of employment for those employees participating in the program. In addition, Article 22, D1D, Paragraph 4 states the current 2022-2023 middle school schedule shall continue to be in force. This too has been violated by the new middle school schedule. As I'm sure you're aware, the association filed a grievance in regard to the change in middle school schedule at level 2, which was denied on the basis that it should have been filed at level 1 prior to being sent at level 2. However, Article 3E1, if in the judgment of the association the grievance affects a group or class of employees, the association may submit such a grievance in writing to the superintendent directly, and the processing of such grievance shall be commenced at level 2. Clearly, the change in a schedule affects a group of employees and was correctly filed at level 2 with the assistant superintendent, as she is the party that is implementing the change in schedule. It has also been suggested the association is now out of timelines. The statement is also false and misleading, as the grievance procedure clearly makes reference to the number of school days. In Article 3, C3, the contract states that if the aggrieved person is not satisfied with the disposition of his or her grievance at level 2, or if no decision has been rendered within 10 school days after the grievance was delivered to the superintendent or his or her designee, or after 15 days after the grievance was delivered to the superintendent or his or her designee, whichever is less, submit in writing to the board president a request for a hearing before the board. As the grievance was denied at the resumption of the school year and the new year has not started, the association is still within timelines, as the collective bargaining agreement clearly states multiple times throughout the grievance procedure, school days, not calendar days. In addition, in Article 3C2, it states that in the event that a grievance shall be filed in such time that it cannot be processed through all the steps in the grievance procedure by the end of the school year, and if left unresolved until the beginning of the following school year, could result in irreparable harm to a party in interest, the time limit set forth herein shall be reduced by mutual agreement so that the grievance procedure may be exhausted prior to the end of the school year or as soon thereafter as is practical. Again, this language demonstrates that the association is still within the timelines and within their rights to request a board hearing at level 3. Therefore, on behalf of the Washington Township Education Association, I'm requesting a board hearing for the grievance regarding the change in middle school schedule, as procedure states in the mutually agreed upon collective bargaining agreement, which has been violated by Assistant Superintendent Dr. Pamela Nathan by implementing a new middle school schedule without first negotiating with the Washington Township Education Association. Thank you in advance for your attention to this matter. This email request, I apologize. That was set at level 3. President Ross, I just want to clarify, if I can, that your email address is rross@boe.wtps.org?
Correct.
Are you having an issue with your email that I'm unaware of?
We sent you something.
No, not we.
Well,
You did not
I
send
talked to the administration.
That's adversarial. There's no need to be like that. So we're not going to go back and forth.
Okay, I don't want to go back and forth,
Yeah,
but if there's a more effective way to communicate with you, I would be more than happy to do that.
You got it.
Mr. Scardino, so you guys won't see the communications, and I'm not going to read the communication because that would be inappropriate, but this is how it started. Hi, Rob. I hope this message finds you well. I'm responding on behalf of President Ross.
That's not what it says in the collective bargaining agreement.
I'm just reading.
All right, Rob, you want me to respond? Send them to me from now on, I'll respond.
Yes, I would appreciate that, Rob.
You got it.
Is there anything else you want to address with that?
No, you just addressed it. I mean, without getting into the specifics of the grievance that aren't supposed to be talked about publicly pursuant to the contract, that's the only possible thing that might have been violated. There's nothing wrong with someone responding on behalf of the president. I mean, you guys could grieve that if you want, but that's going to go nowhere. I mean, the response was clearly on behalf of the president. I'm not sure why you feel compelled to bring it up. There was an offer of a meeting, and we can leave it at that. I don't want you to get into this.
There was no offer of a meeting.
There was absolutely an offer of a meeting. We can leave it at that.
Yeah.
There's an offer of a meeting.
There's 100%. There's 100% an offer of a meeting in paragraph 3.
Then I would be more than happy to discuss that after the meeting.
Yeah. And I think those, we talk about good communication. We absolutely should have good communication. We probably could iron that out without reading the intimacies of a grievance in public, which I think also goes against the contract, Mr. Scardino.
I apologize.
Thank you. Elaine Clancy?
Hi, good evening. Thank you for your time. Just a real quick question. Do you have anything in line for discipline? I've been concerned because a couple of my granddaughter's friends have mentioned what's happened in the past in the bathrooms with students smoking, vaping, doing weed in the bathrooms, that they will not use the bathrooms. And they're really concerned about this school year. Also, some things that have been happening where there have been fights, and I Mr. Anderson, he is awesome, but I don't know if he's aware of all this, and I know that they're very concerned about it. So I'm just bringing it to your attention. It's not just my granddaughter, it was a bunch of her friends, boys and girls, that came to me with their concerns. I overheard them discussing it, and then I asked. The other thing is that discrepancy in the special ed salaries, specialized assistant salaries. I'm concerned about that too. There's an inequity. We have people that have worked in this district that are qualified that don't even make up to number 58, number 63. So I'm just bringing that to your attention. The other thing that's not on my card, I know that we hired the Bush firm back when we hired you because you claimed that you had no political contributions. So I'm just concerned about what I'm hearing from many of the members of the community. So I'm just bringing it to your attention that there is that concern. And I know it's not on my card, but it's got to be out there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Elaine. Tom Baldessaro?
I have a series of questions. I'm going to send them over to Dr. Hibbs, so you don't have to worry about writing them down. I come up a lot, and usually when I do, it's about wanting things to be right. Just the right thing for the kids, the right things for the community. And the good thing is what I have here is none of the people up here on this board were involved in what I'm going to bring forward. Stacy, you were on the board, but I'm pretty confident you were not involved. This is going to go back. It's funny, we were talking about health benefits, but in 2021, we did an RFP for health benefits. And my wife has been operating things since February, and I don't know why it's taken so long to get them, but I just worry about conflicts related to our attorney. What she operated showed that there were 5 bidders for that contract. Also, we received an OPRA that the board president was asking Ms. Wechter for advice on how to present the request. And what it ended up with, and this is really odd to me, the Board of Education recommends the award of RFP to the most responsive bidder, Insurance Consulting Services, LLC. That's who got the bid. Now, the first thing there, I've been coming to a lot of board meetings. I've done thousands of RFPs myself, and I've never seen the board recommend, ever, not one time. So it leads me, that OPRA leads me to ask these questions. And Dr. Hibbs, you have all of these. The only way I can see a board making a recommendation is if administration doesn't recommend them, because it was a bad bid, bad RFP, whatever. But why did the recommendation come from the board and not administration? Ms. Wechter, I've heard you at other meetings talk about that you do rating forms for RFPs, and I'm going to assume you did it here. And so what I'd like to know is, did you use that process? If yes, can you share the ranking? There were 5 of them. Where did the person who got, the company that got the bid, where did they fall in that ranking? I am going to bet they fell low, because otherwise you would have recommended them. If they did not score well, and the board is recommending it, it just shows me that they want, whoever they want, to get the job, which I would consider bid rigging, is what I'm talking about here. In that scenario, I would seek legal guidance. Did the district ask for an opinion on this process? If so, what response did you get? The recommendation read by the board president said it went to the most responsive bidder. Again, based on the rankings, would you agree with that? That's my question. Another thing we opened, we found out after that budget was approved, there was another a modification put in for a $400,000 increase in benefit cost. What caused the need for that increase in the budget line? And I'm going to assume you know all this because we've been opening stuff like crazy, my wife. And did that increase in budget also lead to an increase in fee for that vendor, who I think got the job from bid rigging? So based on what I could piece together, this looks like, again, clear bid, call it what you want, bid rigging, contract law violation, you can call it whatever. I have to believe that Ms. Wechter and Dr. Hibbs, that you knew I might come here because of all the information I got. So my question, another question is, did you make the board aware of this illegality, potential? Because again, that's all the assumptions. I can't get everything sometimes. Now, if you did, my question for Mr. Ross will be, why didn't you bring this to the public? If you were, I'll finish when I'm done. But assuming the assumptions I've drawn here are right, and again, I'm a good math guy, and 1 + 1 is 2 all day. There is corruption here. And I want to know if you'll be reporting this to the state. So, thank you.
Just for the records, I wasn't on the board. I wasn't the...
I'm talking about right now. If you're aware of what I brought forward, like if administration brought it to your attention, and then I think it should be brought to the public.
Yeah,
With regards to concerns on my Oprah, with regards to the insurance for 2022, so that is not correct. You have received correspondence from me since last year.
Thank you. Okay.
Hold on 1 second. I don't want to be disingenuous because there was questions that were asked out of Mrs. Clancy that I want to make sure at least we address. The second piece was your opinion. Totally respect it. We're trying just to operate. That's really what we're trying to do. Mr. Anderson and his team is fully aware of the sometimes issues that happen at every high school, including Washington Township High School. We have redone the code of conduct at middle and high school levels to put more stringent measures in there for kids that are breaking some of our rules, including, the concept of what happens on phones, including, a multitude of other things. So, it is something that we are aware of and that our team works very hard to address and support. So I don't want you to think that I just didn't answer that one. I want to make sure I address that piece for you. Okay, Mr. Baldessaro, we're gonna address what we can. There's some things that we can't address under advisement for right now of our conflict attorney, but we're going to address what we can right here.
Okay, as far as the RFP process, we use a rating sheet that corresponds to the criteria that was in the RFP. We did use the rating sheet for that particular contract. The rating, I don't have it in front of me, so I don't know the exact numbers, but the contractor the person that was awarded the contract was the lowest out of the 5 and received approximately half the points of the other contractors. You are correct. The reason why the motion read that the Board of Ed recommended is because administration did not make the recommendation. As far as the increase in the benefit cost, the original proposal that was given to us by the broker for the increase, we're normally given that around budget time. So I was told it would be a 0% increase and built the tentative budget around that. And then when a proposal was sent to me approximately April 1st, that included a 2 to 4% increase, I can't remember, but it related to the $400,000. So what we had to do, as you probably remember from the budget process, once you submit the tentative budget, if you make any changes because the county's approving it, you have to speak about it at the public hearing. So in between the tentative budget and the public hearing, if you go back to the presentation, you can see we had to increase the benefits line item and decrease in other areas.
Yeah, I think the first question was recommendations. I think you hit that. So if you see that, typically my position recommends virtually everything on the agenda. So and I was not here for this, but if you see that if it doesn't say the superintendent recommends, that means the superintendent didn't recommend it. So you're correct. We addressed the concept of the forms. We addressed the concept of the ranking. your fourth question, if they did not score well and that led to the board ultimately making the recommendation, did administration seek guidance on this from the solicitor? I can't talk about that piece right now, nor can I talk about responses. And the reason why it's attorney-client privilege, just so you understand, and it's not my attorney-client privilege. So if I would give an answer that was not released by the board, then I would have repercussions. If you're asking, was it the most responsive bidder? If you're asking my opinion, no. What caused the need to increase the budget line item? I think you explained that, because I don't know the answer to this. Did the increase in budget also mean the fees paid to insurance? Did the increase in the budget or that 400, did it then increase the fee that a certain person would have collected?
For that particular contract, it would, because the proposed fee was a percentage of the contract. Sometimes it's a flat fee, sometimes it's a percentage, so that particular one was a percentage.
I did convey information to the Board of Education.
Just to see.
Yeah, tonight. Yeah.
Tonight.
And understand that whatever I conveyed, which I can't talk about, it would have been executive session, but nobody here had decision-making power over that. And I can't answer 11 yet, under advisement from conflict counsel, which is, will you be reporting corruption to the state?
You are going to have the conflict counsel
Come.
come.
Yep.
That's right.
Absolutely. Yep. Next Tuesday.
Okay. Mr. Lucarini?
Yeah, let's cut to the chase. Okay, it's very obvious what's going on here. The broker that you're referring to, I believe, was a gentleman by the name of Milam. He's the Democrat chair, or he was the Democrat chair. I shared it with the mayor in Washington Township. He was deeply involved in school board elections with Schools First and Children First, the political whores who have taken over this district and sank us into the bottom third, which as a resident, I'm absolutely appalled at the teachers in this district. I understand fighting for your rights, for your contracts. That makes sense, even though a few years back it happened and nobody said a thing. He was all covered it up. And unfortunately, Rob, your buddy, had to go file a grievance with the NJEA, and they agreed with him. All right, but that's beside the point. The teachers are defending this obvious decline in our ranking, in our standing in this school system, in the bottom third of the state. That's what they're defending, and I guarantee you 20 years ago we weren't in the bottom third, all right? And they defend it while this corruption is taking place. And Dr. Hibbs, I don't care, I like you as a guy and all that, but I don't want to hear about conflict attorneys. This attorney here can't answer the question because he's Milam's attorney. And Milam, from what I understand, is under indictment on the Norcross thing. And from what I also understand, I may be wrong on this one, there's still an unsealed indictment that hasn't been uncovered yet. You know, they haven't released yet. So this whole thing is swirling, and Baker, Serrano, Bloom, and Ralph, you all are involved with that crowd. And that's the end of the story, and that's why you don't want it to come out, Ralph, because this guy got a contract, and Mrs. Kozempel was another person who's running for the board, who's also facing ethics charges, still pending, and from what we understand is rumored to be dating Mr. Serrano. I don't know if that's true, but all that, she's running for the board in the one-year seat. This lady has a lot of audacity, considering the fact that this is corruption. If this occurred, this is bid rigging, I already talked to a couple people who've been involved with the FBI numerous times in situations related to Washington Township, and it is bid rigging. And that is a criminal offense. And when you read about Norcross and you read about Milam and all these players, all they keep talking about is the criminal enterprise here in South Jersey. The criminal enterprise. And that's what you people are involved in. Okay? If you're not allowing the public to know exactly what happened in this particular situation, you are blocking the public's interest, and I think you're actually perpetuating corruption in this town. Okay? That's my own opinion. All right? It's obvious that there's 4 people running for the board on one side, and the public has to make up their mind if they want to continue this nonsense, or there's 4 people running on the other side. I don't even know who they are, other than Mr. Lindsay, who absolutely deserves a vote for the Board of Education. But other than that, I don't even know who these people are. I wouldn't know them if they walked by me and said hello to me. But they're obviously people that are not interested in all this political nonsense. You're all tied to this nonsense. And from what I understand, the donations for all your robocalls and all your flyers and everything that went out, Ralph and Serrano, I understand that you still haven't filed with ELECT. I don't know if you're bound by law to do that. But as a courtesy to the public, since there's no public trust in this Board of Education because of the 4 of you, in my humble opinion, that you deserve, or the public deserves, to know where you're getting this money. And even if it's soft money, Mrs. Chilla's idea of cutting back, RFPs on people who donate, even if they donate to a committee, a PAC that donates ultimately to you guys, that gives money out for these campaigns, they shouldn't be allowed to conduct business here in Washington Township. We're in the bottom third. I just want to let everybody know that. The bottom third. This kid came up here to you 5 minutes ago. He acts like we're in the top 100. We're changing this, we're changing that, we're changing this. You better change something, because you're losing. Thank you.
I will respond. I am not involved in any of that. I don't even know the man that he's talking about from the Democrat Party. And if this continues, then maybe I need to look into what charges I can make, because this is really going against my character. And when Mr. Lucarini wants to talk about our scores, I've been keeping track of that. He's talking about the U.S. News and World Report. Is that the thing that he talks about? Let me see. U.S. News. Okay, so if you look at that, I looked at that, and then I also looked at the ranking that we have from 22-23 in our own school district, and by that I mean our county. And in our county, there are 14 high schools. We rank number 6 there, but you have to remember GCIT is 84.44 and 76.98, and they do a ranking that includes 2 different variables. I didn't bring it, but 2 ways of looking at our scores, and that was just from that year. I think that we talked about that at one board meeting. Behind GCIT is Clearview, then Pittman, Gateway, Clayton, then Washington Township, and then it goes down from there. And I did talk at our last instructional affairs meeting about testing scores. And if you want to look at testing scores and really look at them carefully, start in North Jersey and come down and come down. And the farther down you come in counties, the lower the test scores get. So it has a socioeconomical impact as well as a school like ours that's trying to do our best. So I want you to keep that in mind, that it's just the way it is. There may be a few in Burlington County that on what he was talking about tested pretty well, but mostly we were in the ballpark of other schools. And if you get down further into Cumberland County or Salem County, the scores are even lower than our scores. So please keep that in mind when this specific way of judging schools is brought up at every school board meeting. The socioeconomic end of education cannot be forgotten, and it's something we as a district, I think, are trying to work on, because that does matter when we're talking about test scores. And once again, anything he says about me is totally false. I take total offense to it. And when I think about politics, I am seeing so much politics from both parties as far as school board elections go. Years ago, I came to meetings from maybe 2004 to 2009. I came to so many meetings that when I stopped coming to meetings, pegged me and took me out to lunch to see why I wasn't coming to any more meetings. And what I did at that point was I went because I had heard they were the same political things that we're talking about right now happening. And I gotta tell you, when I attended those meetings for 5 years straight, what I found was that once people got on the board, for the most part, or for what I could observe, and I taught in the district at that time, politics quickly disappeared. Even if they had backing from a party or another party, once they got involved in education, it went away. And I feel that way with our board too. I had no backing from anybody except $500 of my own money for signs, for things that I passed out, that my family passed out. And I think I can go on my credibility and my character and my reputation, and I don't feel it should have been attacked tonight, nor at any other time, nor by other people in the audience. I was also asked what petitions I signed, as opposed to what other petitions were signed in a letter that was sent to me. In that sign, it was also referenced my daughter's name, where she works. I was also told that my husband didn't tell the truth when he said my one daughter didn't work at Whitman. The problem was that the question that Mr. Lucarini was asking had to do with my daughter who teaches in South Harrison Township. No, she doesn't teach here. My daughter at Whitman does teach here. And I'm going to tell you the name of each of my children. So if anybody else wants to look up my family, you won't have to look on LinkedIn. I'll tell you the names of them. And again, I'm speaking for myself, not for the board. My oldest is Matthew Bloom. He lives up in Massachusetts. He has a PhD in biochemistry and molecular biology and works for GE Health. My second born is Nicole Elizabeth Eschenbach. She is a teacher in South Harrison Township. My third born is Kristen Blome. She teaches at Whitman Elementary School. And my fourth is Kira Aguilar. She is a financial aid advisor at Rowan University, and she also just came off a 2-year appointment as the financial person at one of our local home and school boards, home school associations. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to ask me. And don't give me the excuse that there have been other board members whose children have been attacked. I wasn't on the board when that happened. I didn't condone it. And I don't know about you, but I was always told, don't tell me what somebody else did. That doesn't make it right. So if it wasn't right to attack that person's children, please don't mention my children who are grown with good characters as to what they can or cannot ask questions about or post on their own Facebook pages. Enough is enough. Politics right up here needs to stop. And it's everywhere, and it's both parties.
I'm just going to comment real quick. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask a question. Dr. Hibbs, Ron sent I believe it was a legitimate email during the whole budget thing about his granddaughter being affected. I just want to make sure she was good.
We shouldn't talk about kids.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. My apologies, but everything all right?
You can't talk about that. So, I just want to address overall about the rankings in general. The way we as a board can help improve rankings starts with supporting our support staff, our teachers, our administration, our superintendent. That's the way we start to get better. I mean, I think we have a lot of work to do as a board collectively, but if we start to focus on those items of supporting recommendations, asking, Pat, I think you'll agree, this last IA meeting, It was a long one. We asked a lot of questions about instructional affairs, things that we sought clarification on. That's how we get better. So I can look at the rankings. There's tons of different parameters and metrics that goes into it. And honestly, can I say we're killing it? No, we're probably not killing it. But I'm not going to point to the teachers or anyone else specifically. Now we just need to move on. I don't think it's a teacher issue by any means at all. I don't think it's anyone necessarily here. We're moving on. And the way we can move on is improve the communication, which always seems to be an issue amongst the board and between everybody, and start to support the recommendations, participate in committee meetings, make sure everyone that's supposed to be there is there, and we're fully engaged. We're reading things before meetings as best we can. That's the way we get better. I think we got better tonight. We supported the recommendation from Mr. Distilio to take the position. It was a huge step forward as a board that we agreed on that. Next step is going to be looking at other, like the open board seat. So that's the way it all collectively comes together to improve a school ranking. It's not just the academics, it's not just one thing or the next, or who's looking at what ranking or not. As far as politics go, I'll comment. I'm the least political person on this board. I'm a registered independent, always have been my entire life, never accepted a dollar for any campaign that I ever ran, period. And in terms of keeping politics off the board, I think that's up to the people who are being political, period. So as far as my comments about political donations, I'll say this. I think if we can start to look at policies that keep politics off the board, we get better. So I think that's something that we can do as a board collectively, period. So I don't disagree with anything that you said. I'm just saying I think that we as a board need to start owning it and start having really productive conversation about what we can do to help support administration and teachers and support staff to get better. That's it.
And I also think that when we say we support our superintendent, it's just like when you're in a home and you have children. When you support your children, does it mean that you always say yes? No, it doesn't work that way. Just like when you ask somebody a question, does it mean that their answer is going to be yes just because you ask them? This board has a lot of work to do, and I won't go into it because you can't until we have this special meeting, but the 3 specific goals, in addition to other ones, that I want for our board is things like have that school board calendar, create one that we use and we adhere to next month, every month of the year. If you looked at when we went over our Board of Education goals at the last meeting, we just said things like, yeah, I think we did that. Oh, yeah, I think. Well, I have actual things that will measure that. I have things that are going to be done and measure that we get training from the New Jersey School Board Association, not just once. I have a certain number of times per year, and that then we hand in reports for the public to know what we learned from that training. And my third one I have here is to encourage participation in the community. I know that that came up when people were talking about our budget, that they don't see board members out in the public. We are assigned to schools. I'm asking that we not only do that, but that we each attend 3 or 4 other, maybe an orchestra concert, a play, whatever, and that we document that and then bring it back and talk about it here, and that we be required to keep a log for those activities that we then hand in at the end of the year. And some of the training that we could get are things like, for example, some of these you'll think, oh yeah, they need that. Robert's Rules of Order, role and responsibilities of a board member, conflict management skills, improving superintendent relations, school finances. So if you listen to that list, there are a lot of things that we could be doing as a board that have nothing to do with politics that would help us run better as a board and support our superintendent in ways that don't always mean saying yes, but negotiating and coming up with what we think is the best decision for our district. That's the role of a board member. You come up and you do what you think is best. It doesn't mean that you're going to agree with a political party, the superintendent, or anybody else. You're going to have your own conscience. You were voted in by citizens. They're the ones that should take you out. But you're trying to do what you think is best for our students.
I don't think Carol meant by supporting the superintendent means you say yes. But I just want to state that because I thought that's not what she meant.
I question that. I question that. That was just my question.
Since there's a question, I'm just going to say this real quickly. I don't think it's about saying yes, but when a superintendent puts a recommendation on the agenda that's vital and critical to the district functioning, and there was plenty of notice given to the board, then I think we should say yes, because we don't have an alternative solution.
With the rationale.
This is not about saying yes to everything by any means. I don't think we should be yes people. But I don't think at this point that we have been yes people. I think that if there's a critical hire, I know me, do not have a superintendent certification last I checked. The only other person up here is Ralph that has a superintendent certification. And I'm not going to make a decision that's going to damage or harm the district. I'm not going to do that by any stretch. So if he's going to put forth a recommendation and there's valid reasons why, then I'm going to support the recommendation, because if I'm not going to do that, I'm putting the district at risk. So when I make my decisions independently, when I look at the agenda and I review it and I ask questions, those are the questions I ask myself. And I say, is this something that is critical, vital, something that he's explained? I'm on personnel, so I usually have those detailed explanations. Connie is the chairperson. If you have questions about any personnel hire, that should go to Connie as well as the chairperson. I haven't seen minutes in a while to really look at what personnel, like usually the chairperson takes those minutes and reports out. So I'm saying, like, if you're not informed, that stinks. But I'm just going to say this, I'm not a yes person, and I don't think we're doing that here, but I think we really need to take a hard look at our credentials. And again, there's only one other person on the board that has a superintendent cert, and that's Ralph. So I'm just saying, I don't want to be couched as the yes person, all right? I don't.
I'm sorry if I made you feel that way. My point was not that we shouldn't say yes to Eric. My point was that it may not always be yes. And I think the point that was brought out tonight in the audience was that it's 4-4, 4-4. This idea of this 4-4 has got to stop.
But I'm not going to not vote for something because other people vote yes. I'm just saying.
It's a 4-4 mentality. It gets doing
It's not mine. I vote for it.
It's both sides. It's just
I don't vote.
yeah, except for me.
With a side. I don't care what
All
the
right,
other four do.
we'll move on, but
Good.
thank you.
I mean,
Okay. I want to comment to Mr. Bolisaro's mention about the information that we were privy to relative to a previous decision that the board made. I was just privy to that information, or some of that information, this evening. I wasn't on the board. I don't think anybody, Stacy was the only one who was on the board.
I said that, what I said.
Right. Right. But I think something like that has to be digested by the attorney to see exactly what we can say. So I wasn't the president then. That information was just given to us this evening, and we'll run it through our attorney and see how it goes. Okay. Colleen Baldessaro? She left? Okay. Having said that, motion to close to the public?
So moved.
All in favor? We have to have a roll call on that, Connie? Motion to adjourn?
Just real quick, I want to try to leave on like a positive note. I want to congratulate again Mr. Diastilio for your leadership, and I really hope that you're going to lead our district forward with what you got. You have a lot on your plate, man. No pressure, but I know you got it, so I'm going to end it on this. Congratulations again.
All those in favor? Aye. All right.